Hey there everyone, Scapegoat Stephen. We're back with another Marvel Crisis Protocol report. This time we have the Spider Foes, who will be on the left-hand side of the screen, versus the AForce, who will be on the right-hand side of the screen. This is a league match from our local club. So the way our league is organised, we have two groups, each group of 4 people, and we play 2 games against each opponent in our league group. This is my game 4, my second game versus the Spider Foes, so we will see how much my opponent has learnt from our previous matchup. So let's just take a quick look at the rosters first. So naturally, Green Goblin is the only affiliation leader. My opponent is reasonably new into Marvel Crisis Protocol, so they have quite a few models from the core box, still sort of padding out their splash characters rather than necessarily any additional purchases, but they've pretty much got the core box plus Spider Foes. So you've got Baron Zemo, Black Widow, Carnage, Dr. Octopus, Kraven, Lizard, Mysterio, Ultron, and Venom. And tactics cards wise, they have Brace for Impact, Carnage Rules, Lethal Protector, Mission Objective, Monkey Brain is Lizard Home, Patch Up, Sinister Traps, The Age of Ultron, The Grand Illusion, and Well Laid Plans. So there's some cards here that I would expect to see exceptional healing maybe in a roster that includes the Lizard. However, again, I don't think my opponent had the card, so he didn't put it in his 10. I think as well you've got some really good cards here. So obviously restricted, you've got Patch Up and Brace for Impact. Then you've got Mission Objective, obviously really good classic card. Age of Ultron, really good for getting Ultron up again. Grand Illusion, amazing card with Mysterio. Hate it every time I play against it, especially in a faction that doesn't have a lot of re-rolls and relies on those crits for the extra dice. Well Laid Plans, obviously brilliant for making me drop objectives. Sinister Traps damages and pushes me away from an objective when I first go near it in a turn. Monkey Brain is Lizard Home, still decent attack for Lizard, lots of pushes. Carnage Rules again, not bad. My opponent did, however, look at the fact that AForce have, or at least my roster has, a few characters with energy attacks, and decided maybe Carnage was not a good choice to bring in his roster for the actual game. But we'll get back into that in a minute. Let's just take a quick look at my AForce roster. Right, so this is my AForce roster. I know I've spoken about it before, but the roster has gone through a couple of iterations since this. This is the league roster that was locked in, obviously, a month or 2 ago, so I'm sticking with it. Got She-Hulk, Black Cat, Captain Marvel, Crystal, Domino, Medusa, Okoye, Wasp, and then 2 unaffiliated characters with Ghost Spider and Iron Man. You've got the 3 AForce cards, AForce Assemble, Special Delivery, Stalwart Determination. You've got 2 restricted cards in Brace for Impact and Patch Up. Then you've got a couple of character cards in Elemental Infusion and Helios Laser Bombardment and Pim Particles, and then a couple of general all-purpose cards in the form of Marked for Death and Mission Objective. Marked for Death I don't think really necessarily is needed in my particular league group, but I take it in my 10 at the moment anyway, just in case you come across any form of Black Cat or just Web Warriors in general. Obviously don't necessarily want Miles to be able to live, so it's a really good card against him. Pin Particles, again, decent extra throw. Elemental Infusion, really good, even a focused sort of central deployment as crisis maps, especially when Crystal can also be your long move special delivery of She-Hulk target. So, right, let's get into what the game ended up at. So, a 17 threat game, classic Marvel Crisis Protocol threat level. We've got Deadly Meteors mutate civilians. That came from my deck, and Spider Infected Invade Manhattan came from my opponent's deck. So we've got Green Goblin, Dr. the Octopus, Kraven, the Lizard, and Ultron. I've got Age of Ultron to obviously help bring Ultron back. Brace for Impact because he knows I've got a lot of throws in my list. In fact, I think almost every character there has a throw. We've got Patch Up, obviously good healing. Sinister Traps, again, great card for dealing a bit of damage as mentioned earlier. And Well Laid Plans messes up, obviously, my holding objective game. And then I bought She-Hulk, Crystal, Captain Marvel, and Medusa. Now, to be perfectly honest, She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, and Medusa are my core 14 threat that I really like to take in games at the moment. They're just such a diverse group of characters. Captain Marvel can trigger special delivery. She's a ranged attacker. She's got good defenses, good energy defense, again, very useful into someone like Guardians. And then Crystal's just all round good, but she gives me a long move option with flight, especially with the Deadly Meteors. So I did take Angela, noted. You should be able to see I did take Angela out of my AForce list earlier, due to I had some issues when I ran her. So let's just leave it at that. It's a very personal thing. It's not anything to do with how good or bad she actually is or isn't. It's an emotional reaction to how bad she's performed for me in the past. She is back in my current AForce roster, it should be noted, but obviously not for the league. And then I bought AForce Assemble. Again, probably not the best choice of card, given we're not really going to be bunched up too much. Elemental Infusion, pretty decent card for Crystal, Patch Up, Special Delivery, and Stalwart Determination. Right, so we got Deployment first. And my opponent's going to put Lizard down towards the bottom left. I'm going to deploy centrally with She-Hulk. And my opponent's going to put Ultron top right. We've got Captain Marvel bottom left. Bit of thinking here. We're going to go Goblin straight in the middle. Medusa top right. Doc Ock opposite her. And then Crystal next to She-Hulk. My opponent's finally going to play Kraven next to Lizard. He's then going to play Sinister Traps on the center spider infected / meteor objective. So my opponent does have priority, although I will quickly take it, having only 4 characters at the end of turn 1, going into turn 2. So he's going to start with just an easy move by Dr. Octopus. And he's going to move and pick up that spider infected just in front of him. So he's going to do one move there, pick up the spider infected. He's going to do a second move there to contest that meteor. Obviously, he can't take it because he doesn't have a second power. I'm going to go with Medusa. She's going to move, pick up the spider infected, and then she's going to move to trigger Sinister Traps. She goes there. She does take 2 damage, unfortunately, which does then trigger the push. My intention there was basically just to get the push on a model that already has an objective, therefore it doesn't really matter because the Sinister Traps is obviously first model that moves within 2, so it should get pushed to there. So Green Goblin's going to go. He is just out of range of being able to hit Medusa with any sort of ranged attack, which he's not hugely happy about for obvious reasons. So he's going to be forced to move. So he moves ever so slightly just so he's in range. He throws a pumpkin bomb at Medusa. He does 2 damage and incinerate to her. So that leaves her with 2 health and incinerate for anyone who is keeping a score at the moment. I'm then going to blow Special Delivery on maybe a mistake here. I kind of wanted to do it just to give She-Hulk some movement so that she would then be able to go for some of the other objectives later in the turn. So yeah, just drop her there. She moves and then moves with the Special Delivery. Crystal then picks up the spider infected because she had an extra power from when Medusa was damaged. It then potentially gives me the option with She-Hulk of flipping that portal and double moving down to this bottom portal and taking that. So Ultron's going to go, he's going to move, and he's going to strike Medusa and daze her. He's then obviously going to pick up the spider infected from that attack. He rolled very, very well. There was no way with only 2 defense that Medusa was going to survive that attack. So Captain Marvel's going to go next. She's going to move, pick up this spider infected, and then she's going to move again and flip this meteor. Again, because she has extra power from the AForce leadership, because Medusa's just been beat on so much, that allows her to do 2 interactions. So there's a plus side to Medusa getting ranked on a lot. Lizard's going to go next. He is going to move straight towards this spider infected. There's a discussion here about which way is the best way for him to go, but in the end, yeah, we decided to go here because he didn't really want anything of She-Hulk, even with his -1 damage. So he moves here. He will pick up the spider infected, although we haven't moved the token. He's going to hit Captain Marvel for 3 damage, and then he's going to pick up the car and throw that at Captain Marvel, and get an additional 2 damage. So that is, I think it's 5 damage of Captain Marvel's 6 health in one go. So She-Hulk's going to go. She is going to flip the central portal. Meteor, sorry. Flip the central objective. There we go. It's a bit more neutral terms. And then she is going to walk over this direction towards Lizard. Basically towards the camera. So I've got 2 objectives. My opponent can't really, unless Kraven double moves and tries to take that center objective, you know, I'm pretty safe from having the points there. So we're going to go and we're just going to punch Lizard. So it does 3 damage and slows him. This is after his -1 damage, so it does pretty decently. And then we're going to choose to pick him up because we've slowed him, so quite useful. And we debate just throwing him off into the wilderness, but in the end just throw him into Kraven, just get a bit of extra damage into Kraven. Kraven takes 2 damage, and then I'm not sure if this was a smart move or if I should have let her just daze in the next turn, but I patch up Captain Marvel for 5 on turn 1. Yeah, not really something I ever want to do, if I'm perfectly honest. That was a patch up turn 1. Never good, especially against spider foes who have that ability to reduce your defense via incinerate, and obviously the leadership for doing that little bit of extra damage, making you re-roll a defense die. So yeah, pretty good. So we've just got Kraven now to go. And again, there's a discussion about, does he try and, if he can get to a portal and flip it, then he stops me scoring the meteor points. He doesn't take the portal himself, or the objective himself, but he does cause, he basically reduces my ability to score. So in the end, Kraven's going to move. He's going to expert tracker on She-Hulk, and then he's going to attack She-Hulk, and he's just going to straight up smack her for 5 damage, yeah, quarter of her health in one hit. Maybe I should have saved patch up, shouldn't I? And then with that, he gets an extra move from that attack. So he's going to move to that central objective, and he is then going to try and flip that objective. Obviously, he's going to need 2 successes because I have a character there in the form of Crystal, which he does manage to do. So that stops me scoring anything for those objectives. So let's score up and see where we are at the end of turn 1, round 1. So some very good plays there by the spider foes. Managed to stop me getting both one of the spider infected by that just brutal barrage of attacks into Medusa. Although I suppose that was kind of reliant on Sinister Traps. I'm not sure if Ultron would have had range if the Sinister Traps push hadn't happened. But either way, so we're looking at 3 points due to 3 spider infecteds for the spider foes, and then 2 points for AForce again for 2 spider infecteds. Neither of us have scored the meteors in round 1 because we both have one of the objectives, although my opponent has a bunch of models around that top objective, which kind of makes it not really particularly interesting for me to send anyone over there to their death. So let's see how we get on in round 2. So as I said earlier, I'm going to take priority this round, although, you know, there's a lot of where do I go with first, really. But we do roll for the spider infected first of all. And as far as moved by the spider infected go, we have Crystal, Captain Marvel. So there goes Crystal and Captain Marvel. There goes Dr. Octopus. Yeah, you can run away all the way over there. And you know what? Lizard, you're slowed. Get all the way back in your own deployment zone. So he doesn't have oh no, he does have a spider infected, doesn't he? But I want to kind of fight over the central objectives at this point. Just try and eke out those slow early leads. So we're going to start by playing Stalwart Determination. It's a solid round 2 AForce play. Just the entire team cannot now be pushed or thrown. Disappointingly, after the spider infected has taken place, although I believe that's an advance anyway, so it doesn't matter. But we're going to start with Medusa. She is going to, because she's got shed loads of power right now, she's going to throw Ultron, just, you know, get him back a little bit out of the way. She is then going to attack Kraven, ostensibly to push him off that central objective, but she does 0 damage. She then does a second attack into Kraven and does, sadly, only 1 damage and a push, but enough that we will push him over there so that he's within striking range of She-Hulk. She's then got a bit of power, so she's going to Royal Decree herself to the side of Crystal and then Crystal to the side of her, basically just because we want to play an unfair game where we don't have to deal with Ultron and Doc Ock. So we're just dealing with Goblin and Kraven over on this side of the board. Speaking of Kraven, he's going to go Expert Tracker She-Hulk again. And he's just going to smack her and do 3 damage. Just to start with. He's then... Oh, and bleed, sorry. He then gets a move after that attack. Because he just wants to kind of be a little bit away from her. He's sort of also eyeing up Crystal. And he's not 100% sure where he wants to go. But in the end decides, you know what, let's not go near Crystal because she's got a bunch of range 3 and range 4 attacks. I decide, do I want to move She-Hulk towards Kraven? In the end, I decide not to. Kraven's then going to attack me again and do 5 damage. Which was, yeah, so for anyone keeping track, that's 13 damage from Kraven in his 2 activations onto She-Hulk right now. And then he's doing his second move. He's going to choose to go to there. So She-Hulk is going to look at where Goblin is, look at where she is, decide maybe I should have taken that walk off that damage because then I could have walked near Goblin and just beaten on him, but never mind. So instead, she decides that she is just going to walk onto this objective near the camera, shake bleed, and then throw that lamppost at Kraven and daze him, like just skewers him with a lamppost straight up. You know, again, doesn't take away anything from my opponent potentially getting initiative from me next turn, or priority, sorry, but it does then put him on his wounded side, potentially for killing at the top of the next round, given that apparently he's doing all of the damage right now. So we're going to, again, it's a discussion here about who goes, like which character does my opponent activate? Does he go with Doc Ock, or does he go with Green Goblin, which are realistically the only 2 that can do much this turn, I think. In the end, he decides Green Goblin. He's going to move, so he's just within range. He is then going to hit and run She-Hulk with a pumpkin bomb. And he then does 4 damage and incinerate. So yeah, the damage is just building on my characters right now, especially on She-Hulk, and I'm struggling to keep up. Again, maybe I should have kept that patch up. You know, Captain Marvel's well out of range with that spider, with that push at the moment. You know, could she have been? Mind you, maybe Kraven would have dazed her instead of going after She-Hulk if I'd left her, if I'd kept patch up. Green Goblin is then going to use that hit and run move to move to the central objective. Captain Marvel's going to go. She is going to move to there and use binary and just casually do 5 damage to Green Goblin with her energy blasts and daze him. Just apparently because she can, which was a little bit unexpected, I think, for both of us. But yeah, works. I think she got quite a few crits and then successes on the re-rolls or something. She did well either way. So Ultron's going to go next. He is going to walk towards the center of the board. Not liking the fact that Medusa threw him, he's going to come sort of blast her with a... I think he's just out of range of being able to hit Crystal. So he's going to choose to go for Medusa instead with an energy blast, which manages to do 4 damage and incinerate on poor Medusa, which I think puts her down to, again, 2 health on her injured side. And I believe at this point, She-Hulk is also quite low on health. So I'm going to then choose to activate Crystal. She's going to flip that objective right in front of her, so that gives me the middle and the one at the bottom of the camera underneath She-Hulk's feet. She's then going to move ever so slightly, so she's in range of Ultron, and then she's going to Hurricane Blast him to do 3 damage and a push. Just because at this point, I just want to make sure that, like, I try and keep some of the other opponent's characters at bay. Not that apparently trying to deal with only 3 of them is proving to be particularly successful, but again, it's just that little bit of extra, force him to waste an action to move. Doc Ock is then going to go. He's going to move, and he will flip this meteor at the top of the screen. So yeah, he's not contributing a huge amount right now, but again, he's got a spider infected. He's flipped a meteor, and then he can do a second move to bring himself closer for sort of the next turn, next round even. I think he just wants to make sure that he can contribute a bit more to this sort of bottom half of the screen scrum. Lizard is going to shake slow, and then he's just going to move because he's not hugely happy about all that slow, and that's going to be the end of round 2. So end of round 2, that's a solid 3 points for both teams. My opponent has 3 spider infected, and I have 3 points for the meteors and 2 points for the spider infected I have. So that takes us to 6-7 in favour of the AForce. I do have priority still. My opponent has a lot of damage output between Green Goblin and apparently Kraven, who I've never thought was quite that damaging in previous games. But either, dice have been dice, or maybe I just haven't played against Kraven enough to understand actually that sometimes he does just pop off. So we're going into turn 3. I've got to deal with either Green Goblin or Kraven, or both if I can. We'll see how it goes. Medusa and She-Hulk are on pretty low health right now. So let's see what round 3 has in store for us. So we're coming into round 3 now. Obviously, we're looking at spider infected moves here are really, really like potentially game changing at this point. So we do roll. I managed to have Crystal moved again by the spider infected, and my opponent has Doc Ock and Lizard because I really don't want them anywhere near any sort of fight, so I push them back to where they came from, as with previous turns. So Doc Ock can go back towards that objective, and Lizard, you know what? Go back in your deployment zone again, because that seems to be his favourite place right now. So we decide to go with She-Hulk. I'm not sure in hindsight if this was the right choice, but I figured that Medusa would die very quickly and is reliant on getting those wilds. She-Hulk potentially can take Kraven out from where she is. She is sat on 10 power, so she is going to pop her spender because it is range 3, so she doesn't have to move. So this is a 9 dice attack that then promptly does only a single point of damage to Kraven. Okay, so I'm then going to do the attack. I'm just going to do a second spender again, just hoping to take Kraven out, and I only do 1 damage again. So that was 10 power for 2 damage. Not good. Not good, She-Hulk. Normally she obviously does a lot better than that, but just unfortunate this time. So Green Goblin is going to try and see if he can KO Medusa and daze She-Hulk in 1 activation. So there's talk here about how does he do it. Obviously, he's still got Kraven, although Kraven is staggered because of the spender, or the second spender from She-Hulk, and could potentially just die to Captain Marvel. This is the thing, my opponent's looking at it and going, he has to activate Green Goblin here, otherwise Captain Marvel, I think, has enough power to binary and then just laser Goblin twice and just take him out, or potentially get lucky, take him out in 1 hit, and then take out Kraven in a second hit. So I think he knows he's got to go with Goblin now, whilst he's got the opportunity because of the Goblin speed. Worst comes to it, he puts out some conditions on my characters using Goblin if he doesn't take anyone out. But that's kind of, this is what we're thinking of. The play here is attack Medusa from a hit and then hit and run to move to be able to then attack She-Hulk. It took a bit of conversation back and forth to actually go, you know what, maybe this is the right call. So he's going to attack into Medusa. He is so close to Medusa living. Like, he rolled poorly. I rolled, okay. But he forced me to re-roll and got the 2 damage through to KO Medusa, which is good. Otherwise, Medusa probably would have gone next and just done a load of damage to him. I'm going to hit and run to there. He's then going to throw a pumpkin bomb at She-Hulk and dazes her, which is unfortunate, obviously, for She-Hulk, because it means now I've just lost 2 characters off the board, one of which who has not activated. He then flips that central objective, and we will correct that in a minute, because we realise that when Goblin's on his flip side, he can't contest or control objectives, so we will remove that. Don't worry about it. We are aware. So I'm left with Captain Marvel or Crystal. Now, Captain Marvel is literally the only person that's got any sort of range to do anything. So my thinking here is, can I deal with Goblin and Kraven again in one go? So we're going to activate Captain Marvel. Crystal uses Elemental Infusion. Captain Marvel uses Binary and does 3 damage to, I want to say, Goblin. Yes, and incinerates him. She then decides, you know what? Let's see if we can get a cheeky KO on Kraven. We've got various rerolls. And maybe we can then use Crystal to take out Goblin. We just do 2 damage to Kraven and leave him on 1, even with the rerolls. He's going to roll a load of skulls in that attack. So Lizard's going to go. He's going to move, and he's going to tail whip Crystal. And he manages 4 damage and a push. So yeah, not so good for Crystal, because she's only got, I believe, 5 health. So he's just going to push her into the car. And that's the Lizard's turn done, because I don't think he can throw that size 3 into, because I think he only throws small. But I've then got to go with Crystal. There's no way I'm passing when she's on 1 health. She is going to attack Goblin, and does enough to KO him, thankfully. Again, luckily, he was incinerated anyway, so he had less health. And I'd said that he'd taken 3 damage previously from Captain Marvel, so he didn't have a huge amount left, but KO'd. She's then going to spend 4 to do an attack into Lizard, because again, who doesn't like that? Push away. Just because I'm sure my opponent would have loved that. Unfortunately, I don't get anything on that. She does that by using a superpower that enables her to spend 4, and then she uses her second action to move, just so she's as far away from Ultron and Dr. Octopus as she can, while still technically contesting the middle objective to cause them problems with flipping. So Ultron's going to go. No, he's not. Kraven's going to go. And he's going to shake stagger and then just move towards this objective that's under She-Hulk. He is, unfortunately, because he's slowed from She-Hulk, he can't quite get to that objective. So Ultron's going to move. He is going to attack Crystal and daze her. Well, she's only got that 1 health because Lizard did 4. Drops the Spider Infected, not close enough for him to pick up. Obviously, Doc Ock can't pick it up because he already has one. And the Doc Ock's going to double move and flip this central meteor point. So that's actually a good lot of points there for both sides. So slight error there, sorry, my apologies. Doc Ock failed to flip that central point, thankfully. So I still get 4. So I've got a Spider Infected on Captain Marvel, and I've got the 3 points from the Meteors, taking me to 11. And my opponent has, I believe, just the 3 Spider Infected, taking him to 9. So 2 points ahead. There's no Goblin leadership anymore. One of my characters is on her injured side. Another character is on, well, he's actually fully healthy, I believe, Captain Marvel at the moment. So Captain Marvel, if she can kick off, can do quite a lot. I don't think Crystal's long for this world, if I'm honest, between Ultron and Doc Ock. And Lizard potentially nearby. Kraven also isn't long for the world. He's only got 1 hit point. But it means I've still got to throw an attack into him. So let's see how round 4 plays out. So as you can probably guess, coming to round 4, I am running on dregs here. My opponent has 3 pretty healthy characters and 1 almost dead character that I still have to pay attention to. No one is moved by the spider infected this round, which might be good depending on your perspective. We are going to go with Captain Marvel first, and I decide to attack Kraven after going binary and does 7 damage to his, even through his 3 defense to his 1 health, and takes him out. She is then going to move to the central objective and throw Doc Ock into the car. Probably a poor choice of. We also forget to remove the car. Probably a poor choice. Probably should have thrown him maybe into Ultron, perhaps, like just for a bit of extra damage. I wanted to keep him close, I think, for Crystal to be able to damage him. So Ultron's going to go, and again, there's a bit of discussion here about does he go with Ultron, does he go with Dr. Ock, does he go with Lizard? In the end, he decides to go with Ultron, so he's going to move with his first action to there. He's then going to throw that big size 4 building into Crystal and do 4 damage. So yeah, and then he's just going to Metallic Fury into her and KO her. Not difficult really. She's only got the 1 hit point left on that side, which means I'm activated for this turn, and my opponent's got 2 models left. So that will KO Crystal, unfortunately. Opponent rolls again, much like when Captain Marvel just did shed loads of damage to Kraven, he did exactly the same to Crystal, just way overkilled her. So he's then going to flip that central objective, taking it for himself. There's then discussion about actually what does he do here? Does he try and kill Captain Marvel, but actually for tie-break points? Maybe it makes sense we double move Lizard and flip the portal over here, because then that stops me basically from being able to flip enough portals to score, because I have to go first before he gets to go. And then Doc Ock does the smart thing, and he basically just runs away with the spider infected that he's holding. So yeah, he's just going to run all the way back over there towards that other objective, and that's the end of round 4. Nice, quick and simple. Just the 1 point for me that turn. Obviously, the spider infected that's being held by Captain Marvel. My opponent scores a massive 6. So that's a spider infected on each of his 3 characters and the 3 points for the Meteors. So he only needs a single point to do it for the final turn. Can Captain Marvel take out a resurrecting robot, a reducing damage lizard, and a scientist with some robot arms? We'll see. So it's going to be another really quick round 5. So Captain Marvel gets moved by the spider infected, as does Lizard. Off he goes on a jolly towards the centre. I'm not 100% sure quite what I was doing this, but Captain Marvel is going to shoot Doc Ock and daze him, because we might as well reduce the amount of points my opponent scores when he wins. She obviously doesn't have the power to binary because she threw Doc Ock in the previous turn. Maybe she does. No, I rolled enough dice. Maybe she does have binary. And then she is going to attack Ultron for the same and does 1 damage. I'll then throw the car at Ultron, which I shouldn't be able to do. As previously mentioned, it should have been destroyed. It does 2 damage, doesn't really do enough to him. Ultron's going to Metallic Fury Captain Marvel for 1 damage, and then a second time for 5 damage to daze her. And that's basically going to end the game right there on me with a single dazed character left, my opponent with 3 healthy characters. Oh, well, 1 dazed and 2 healthy characters. So final turn, my opponent scores 5 points, 2 spider infected, and the 3 for the Meteors. I don't score any because my character dropped her spider infected. So it's a 20-12 win for the spider foes. Really good there, really well played, I think, by my opponent. I think the choice of basically spider infected doesn't really work very well for me, in my opinion. And perhaps the damage output of spider foes, Incinerate plus the reroller defense die when Goblin is around, is pretty good. So yeah, solid win for him, and we'll see you again next time.